One of the things that we're going to cover during this year and next year as part of our team is the race writing strategy. And just like a running race or a car race, there's always a destination and a path to get there. And this is a simple way for you to be able to answer in social studies and in other classes prompts that you're going to have to give a written response to. You know that many times in class, teachers give you a constructed response, and they expect you to give out an answer that you've not only defended, but you've thought it out. This is what it means to be an historian. And you always have to support your statement with facts and evidence. Otherwise, it's just an opinion. We're going to talk about this strategy called RACE, and you're going to apply it throughout this class this year and next year, and like I said, in other classes as well. So R stands for restate the question. We're going to take the question and we're going to turn it into an answer. Then we're going to use the evidence in the reading that we're basing our response off of, and making sure that we're not only answering what has actually been asked in the question, but that we've answered everything. To make sure that what we're saying isn't opinion, we have to cite evidence from the text, and we have to say where we got it from. That's called citing the source. And most importantly is the reasoning. It's the explanation as to how our answer that we're providing in a constructed response addresses the evidence and the answer. It's the connecting part. It shows, it means, things like that. Today we're going to be reading an article about Deborah Sampson. She was a spy during the American Revolution, but I want to take a minute and I just want to practice the restating process. And you've done this in previous years. There are many different types of formats for writing this, but generally it's the same thing that everyone must do. So, take a minute and consider how you would restate the following questions. Why were the Patriots angry with King George? What was the outcome of the French and Indian War? How did the British feel when the colonists dumped tea into Boston Harbor? Well, one of the first things I want to do is I want to look for those key phrases. So for example, Patriots, angry, King George. I'm probably going to have that in my answer, so I could rephrase it as, the Patriots were angry with King George for many reasons. Over here, outcome, French-Indian War. If I were to start a response, an opening sentence, the French and Indian War had many outcomes, or you could then build into what you were reading. The French and Indian War had many outcomes that benefited the British and hurt the French. On this third question, it's talking about Boston Harbor, the colonists dumping tea, obviously the Tea Party, and the British reaction. So we could simply turn it just like that. When the Boston Tea Party resulted in 300 cases of destroyed tea, what was the British reaction to this colonial protest? Here's another example. Now, what are some ways students can help to stop bullying in their school? Well, again, the key phrases we want to look for. Students, stop bullying. Those are the things we definitely want to look for. Bullying is a huge problem in many schools. There are several steps students can take to stop it. We have all the key phrases, and it certainly leads into you being able to write a constructed response that would clearly address that question. Stopping bullying includes several approaches. A little shorter, but it gets to the point. There are many things students can do to help stop bullying in their school. All of these use those key words and phrases. They move them around so that you're taking a question and immediately using it in the answer. So, in the example, in which ways did Deborah Sampson demonstrate being a brave soldier? In class, we talked about ways that we could restate it. We did it as an entire group. If you have questions on that, you want to ask Mr. Irigoyen. I do want to point out that there is a note taker you will keep in your notebook. That's going to have to remain there. It's going to be part of your planner checks. So if you were not in class that day, you do need to talk to Mr. Irigoyen about filling in the sections you're missing. In class, we read the Deborah Sampson essay. It's a simple one-page essay. And again, we addressed in which ways did Deborah Sampson demonstrate being a brave soldier. So far we've talked about restating the question. Let's talk about answering the question. We've taken the question and started to answer it. For example, the bullying question. One thing students can do is participate in a school-wide effort committed to speaking out against bullying. So that would immediately lead into, from the restating the question, now you're answering the question. From here, we need to give some sort of evidence to show that we know what we're talking about. In the article about bullying, there was research provided. This is where you're going to go back into the text and you're going to give specific examples that show your answer is reasoned and that it fits in with the evidence. If at all possible, quote the text. Maybe not the entire sentence, but a portion of it. So in the example here, back to stopping bullying, according to the author, research has shown that students who participate in anti-bullying programs in their schools are more likely to have empathy for students who experience bullying. That piece of evidence links back to answering the question, which is the idea of being committed to a school-wide effort to speaking out against bullying. Finally, the explaining and the extending. Again, this is the reasoning part. This is where you're trying to connect your answer to the evidence. One example of this is a poster contest my school had. The topic was Stand Up to Bullies. The contest seemed to make students really think about how hurtful bullying can be. So I've restated the question about bullying. I've answered the question, talking about it can be a school-wide process. I've then given the source material, talking about how one study talked about the approaches. And then I've explained right here how the school Stand Up to Bullies program caused people to reflect on their actions and how it impacted other people. So on that note taker, you're going to write the full paragraph in your notebook about Deborah Sampson. And your paragraph could start with, Deborah Sampson demonstrated being a brave soldier by, and then you're going to finish the sentence above by answering in your own words what she did that was brave. From this point on, you really do need to talk to Mr. Irigoyen if you were not in class that day, and you're going to need to make sure you keep that note taker. If you have any questions, please let me know. Thank you very much, and I will see you in class next time.